Dr. Chrono, we were the longest standing company in our batch.
I think there are a few people better positioned to talk about the entrepreneurial than you.
You only live once. This is your chance. And I would tell people this, I'm like, you're giving up on your chance in life to create something impactful.
Welcome to the next episode of the Entrepreneurial Excellence Podcast. It's with a ton of pleasure. I have Daniel Kivatinos, built two different high-growth VC-backed startups, including Dr. Chrono, which is one of the top 1% YC-backed companies. It's a medical platform that scaled, I think, $2 billion in medical billing and earned a White House recognition for healthcare data initiatives and is ranked as one of Inc. 500's top fastest growing companies in the world. You're also the co-founder of an awesome company and CEO of a company called Just Paid, which is an AI-driven accounts receivable automation platform to help everyone scale their billing, which you need to get paid well. We'll definitely talk about how you went into those two, because they seem sort of different on the surface. And Daniel also writes a pretty brutally honest but fantastic founder newsletter. So we're going to dig into AI, tech, fintech, healthcare, scaling with small teams, overcoming burnout, lessons from 2 decades as a founder, also being a twice YC-backed founder and a YC school teacher. I think there are a few people better positioned to talk about the entrepreneurial than you. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam, for the amazing intro.
And just to make sure we set the stage correctly, Dr. Chrono is still going. Is it still an independent concern? You're there as a board member still. How are you still involved? Because you obviously have a full-time job as CEO of Just Paid. What is your current relationship with them? And I mean, they are one of the most successful YC companies, but I don't think a lot of people know about them. They're not sort of a big public face like Airbnb or Stripe or something. You're one of the most successful ones. So what does that actually mean, and just set the stage properly?
Right. My last company, Dr. Chrono, was like a medical record platform. It's not something everybody uses, it's not a consumer facing product like Apple Watch or a Ring or, sleep. They have these like sleep beds that are really cool in this new tech. Yeah, 8 Sleep. And then so people are using that stuff day in and day out, and it's kind of in their face. When you build infrastructure companies, they're not in everyone's like face all of the time. So a lot of these infrastructure companies just sit in the background and like run parts of America. And that's what I built, was like an infrastructure company. Basically, medical records, when you see a doctor, they chart, they basically do a clinical note while you're in an encounter with them. There's labs involved, maybe there's prescriptions involved, possibly. And then it's all connected to like billing. So, the world of healthcare runs on medical billing, and doctors have to get paid, and there's a lot of insurance companies out there. And so we built a real platform that allowed doctors to run their businesses in a really efficient way. I would say the claim to fame for me in that company was I built with my co-founder and the team, we built the very first medical record on the iPad. And we launched it day one when the iPad came out, which was revolutionary. So sounds kind of silly now, and whatever. There's companies like Uber out there and Lyft and Airbnb, and you can geolocate and figure out like, what are you going to do, where are you going to go, that sort of thing. But like at the time, nobody was building on iPads. And what was unique about the iPad when it first launched was the screen size had enough real estate for a doctor to see a lot of information. So there was a lot of nuances with being mobile as a doctor. Doctors, get up, they walk around, they see patients room to room. They're taking care of a lot of people. It was a form factor that doctors were really excited by at the time. And we, I think right place, right time, right team, kind of had a feeling that it was going to be a unique experience for doctors. We built on it when everybody else ignored it. So it sounds insane. Like it's obvious, like, what is it? Spotify on the iPad. There's companies also that like were growing up at the same time. Like there was a company called PlanGrid, which did construction blueprints on an iPad. Sounds so obvious, but it wasn't so obvious back then. So there were these, I would call them like really successful companies that came out of nowhere that built full businesses and like had these huge businesses based on mobile. And you forget, but 2007, the iPhone came out. So it was kind of 2008 was kind of this like period where a strange energy was in the air and you knew something was different.
Hmm.
because the iPhone had a browser and you felt like there was something that could be done when you're using a phone with a browser versus what, before then there was a flip phones and there was Nokia and there was BlackBerry. They were functional and they were powerful, but they weren't what we have today, which people really take for granted. The world has significantly changed in the last 20 years.
Totally. We need to talk about all that. So walk me though, but really quickly, just set the stage for Dr. Chrono. So you launched on iPad. It gets huge, and so where's the company today, and what's your involvement with it, and sort of what are the big outcomes that has made it one of the top YC backed companies?
Yeah. So, I mean, the company was sold in 2021. We sold it to an awesome company called EverCommerce. They're a large public company. You can look them up, and they're operating Dr. Chrono today, and they're basically taking it to the next level, which is exciting to see a whole team take it and run with it. So
And
that's where it is today. Yep.
that was a 13-year journey, a presumably successful, exit and everything else for you and the team, and exciting.
Yeah, it was I'd call it a really great. You want your product to be given to somebody who will do amazing things with it, and I feel like that was one of those moments where you just feel wow, this is awesome. You have a great team that believes in you. Also, large public companies, they have a lot of resources. They have a lot of team members that are passionate. They're very strategic in the way they think about the world and those sorts of things. So a lot of companies, it's sad to see them struggle or die, or they become zombie companies, which is a flat company and it can't get more revenue. So for us, it was a really great, honestly, experience.
Okay.
And I had moved on from Dr. Chrono, but there are a lot of amazing people there that are just running it and building it.
It was awesome. And I mean, the outcome there, and we're going to want to talk a lot about kind of lessons learned, what you did. And I'm sure there was a huge number of ups and downs throughout all that.
Yeah.
Before we get too far deep, I always ask a question to start things off, which is, given all of your experience, you can probably define this really well, or maybe not. It's hard to define. What is your definition of entrepreneurial excellence? What is an excellent entrepreneur?
There's two elements to an entrepreneur that allow them to become really good. One is they're persistent. There's probably three elements. Two is they're very adaptive. And then three, they iterate fast based off of feedback.
Yep.
With those three elements, you have someone that's amazing. And whatever anyone says, Steve Jobs was one of many. The world was built by many amazing entrepreneurs who were very different from each other. So you can't take one person and glorify them and say, this is what it is. The word hustle, a lot of entrepreneurs don't hustle. I hate to say it. They work their asses off, but they're not. That word is very confusing because the word hustle means I'm going to do a lot of work. It doesn't matter if I'm thinking. It just means I'm going to do a lot of busy work. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who are very strategic and they learn so quick on their feet. And they sleep and they get, they, not that they have work-life balance. It's just, you just see some entrepreneurs who work during the day. You see some entrepreneurs who work in the middle of the night. You see some entrepreneurs who work completely as a recluse. You see some entrepreneurs who are completely extroverted. So there's no right bucket, I would say, but they just are very tenacious. And they have this ability not to give up, even though there's a lot of no's, and they just keep iterating and learning just fast.
And how do when you think through the people you've worked with, you also do a lot of investing. How do you identify that quality, right? I think every entrepreneur would say, if you were asked me or something else, I'd be, yeah, I'm very persistent, I'm adaptive. All the things you said, I'd probably describe myself that way. And everybody who considers himself an entrepreneur might say that. Yet obviously the reality is very few people build a company like Dr. Chrono, or many of the really successful companies, and even YC companies, even those have a small percentage that really, really hit. And yet they are really fantastic entrepreneurs who theoretically have been identified because they have all three of those qualities. So what is the next level differentiating factor?
I'll tell you, time in the market allows for long for a long game. So like when I went through YC, I think it was Dalton. He's an he left YC, but he's one of the people that was just running YC for a long time. He mentioned pure persistence. And what does that mean? It just means time. It means like some of these ideas like take time to percolate. And what I mean by that is like if you look at like Jeff Bezos, he built an online bookstore. Guys, like let's just
Call it
I
what
don't
it
know,
is, right?
it was literally if he worked on it 3 years, it would have been an online bookstore and he would have sold it. It's been like when did they start? 25 years ago? Like you can't build a business that like is enduring without time on your side. So when you look at like Dr. Chrono, we were the longest standing company in our batch with both of the founders running at full force. And everyone else gave up. They all left their own companies.
Like these are YC founders. Why did they give up? And
Now they probably had great exits. A lot of them did have really great exits, but an exit effectively, if you're not running your business, you've kind of like said, I'm done. This is someone else's. I feel like it was a good outcome. Yeah.
But how do you decide then when to? I mean, you still sold in the end.
Yeah.
Like, why? How does one decide when it's time to give up and get out? Like, I totally agree with you. By the way, like I've had situations in my career where like we either stopped earlier than we should have, we sold too early. How do you decide when the right times are? Or because also people could say, well, you suck in it for too long, and maybe you're 13 years in Dr. Chrono. Maybe you missed out on selling 5 years earlier for maybe a little bit less money, but the time value of the money would have been better. And then who knows what else you would have built. So how do you know when to get out and exit and do something different?
I mean, there's no right answer to this, and it's like an art. There's no science. I hate to say it, it's like an art form, but some people just give up. Like, and it's very much an emotional thought process where businesses are generally they take time to build and they're hard. And some people get frustrated, or they have families, or they have maybe a significant other that's pressuring them to move, or they have business partners that are tired, or there's so many like pieces that like make it what it is. It's very sensitive. Like each business is very, very sensitive to getting to that point. And, in my batch, there were a lot of founders who just gave up for bad reasons. And then there were a lot of founders who let go of their businesses for good reasons. And there were good outcomes and there were bad outcomes from both of that.
Are there things that you think you could identify or advise people on and say, hey, like this is what you should try not to do, or what you're building at Just Paid? Even like, how do you select the right partners, right people? I mean, things change over time, so you don't even know. You might start with people you think are great, and things change in their lives. And so, how do you identify those sorts of things? Or like when you're looking at an investment or building your next company, what are the qualities you look for? Or how do you even put yourself in the position for that success, even just mentally for yourself? Like, all right, I'm going back in as like an early stage founder. What are the mental models you put in place?
For a founder who wants to start a business, for me, because I'm in software and I'm in tech, I do look for people that live and breathe tech.
What does that even mean to look like? One saying like you're going to talk to a founder, you're an investor, then everyone's like, oh, I use AI today. Like, okay, cool. Like, sure. How do you identify when someone's like they use tech?
If you see something that's abnormally good about a person, like I met one founder at at an event, and the founder I could just tell was a natural salesperson. And he sold a company, and he started a new one. I got a vibe like he is going to execute.
Yep.
He's running his second business today, and I think they're executing.
Yeah.
Now, I met another founder, I don't know, 10 years ago. This is a true story. Founder wanted me to invest in his business, and I was hesitant because I was not investing as much then, and I was kind of unsure of the business and the business model. He still sends me investor reports today, and every day I'm like, damn, he is like not giving up. The revenue just goes up every month.
He just keeps going.
He doesn't care. It's like he sees this as his like life, and he's not gonna stop.
Yeah.
And it was a hard business, and it wasn't a good idea. And I'm just like, you get some founders who just like push things into reality, and it just comes into reality. And I'm like, man, he had it. He had it. He had whatever it was, and I missed it.
You pass on investing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I could always ask him to invest, but I see his investor reports monthly, and I'm like, it's impressive. Like, you get people like that.
So are those is it sort of that level of persistence that just like, what do you think he had? Or once again, use yourself as an example. What did you have, Sam, to keep pushing through to get to this great exit for Dr. Chrono and to do something again? Like, what do you think your mental model is that you have to say, I'm going to keep going back to this and trying to build something?
I mean, you're going to get a lot of negatives in life, which are, you start your business, nobody wants to invest. So you ignore that. And honestly, Adam, I know a little bit about your business. I know that you're determined, and like, I think you took a different path than like a lot of founders, which is just get quick money in the door, take a salary, and then build the business. Like, I think some people take different paths. And like, when you don't get an investor or you don't get customers and you keep going, you're kind of crazy until you're not. I look at the founders of Figma.
Yeah.
Took them 5 years to build a product that nobody wanted to use until they did. 5 years of no users. Like, what is wrong with
It's a great point. I actually just made a super small investment. I'm not doing a ton of really early stage investing anymore. Into a company that they had been doing their thing for 6 years now. Now they've hit complete product market fit, traction's crushing it, but it took forever. And it was actually in a space I knew really well, and I know most people got out and failed and gave up. And it's to their credit, they kept at it. But once again, like, is there a way to predetermine that, or a way to steel yourself as a founder to push yourself into that place? Like, for you guys at Dr. Chrono, 13 years, you were the last one standing in your sort of cohort of other. There must have been a bunch of competitors who are trying to do this. I still see companies trying to build the next version of what you guys are doing. It doesn't seem like it's been fully solved. What enabled you to stick around longer? Like, how did you persist?
I mean, in my psyche, I think there were a lot of like either faults or things that'll like, I always put myself in a mental state where I have no other options.
What does that even mean, right? Because obviously you have so many options. You're so well connected. You've made enough money. Probably you can do mostly what you want to do within reason. Like, you almost by default, you clearly have other options. So how do you tell yourself, I don't have other options?
It's irrational. I don't know how to just describe it. It's like a very irrational thing. And like, for me, I literally like believe I have no other options, and it's very irrational. And it's like, I kind of just go into it and I'm like, this is my only path. And it's a really strong quality. It can be a really dumb quality if path is the wrong path.
And how do you know it's
like,
that's okay?
You don't.
How do you? Yeah. So but at some point you have to like iterate, right? You have to be adaptive and iterate. So at some point you say, hey, there's new data. I'm on this irrational path. I'm going to go take this new irrational path based on this new data.
At Dr. Chrono, we worked on it from 2000, 8, 9, 10. Took us 3 years. And then the iPad came out. So in year 3, the iPad came out. And that was a game changer. That was like what changed everything for us. Was we were the first mobile medical record. So it took us 3 years of irrationality to get to that point. But in that process, you're kind of building a lot of pieces to get to like this inflection point, right? Like, and that's what Figma did. It's like you're building, you're changing, you're building, you're changing. And then at some point you have enough infrastructure, you have enough product, you have, the right place, right time. And then boom, things just suddenly become this like magic creation. And people think, they look at OpenAI and they're like, that thing's amazing. How could they just magically create that? I'm like, I knew Sam Altman in 2016. Nobody was using OpenAI in 2016. Nobody was using OpenAI in 2017. Nobody was using 2018. Nobody was using OpenAI in 2019. They just were just like building AI tools because he really wanted it in the world. And I think like there were probably a lot of moments that were dark in that company, and he doesn't talk about it enough. Where like it didn't look like they were doing much. Like it didn't, and the reality, and then ChatGPT comes along, and then people just think it was like, boom, he's there. It's created all these users are using it.
Hard work and tears and that went into it beforehand.
Right. And there's like, I'm an ex-musician. Well, I'm a musician still, but like you can see, I don't know, there's a guitar back there, but like a lot of musicians are not famous until they're famous. And it takes like years of refining your craft to get to that point where you've gotten like whatever, the perfect album, and then everybody wants to listen to it. It's the same thing in tech where like you refine your craft. Like there are years of schooling, there's years of education, you move to San Francisco, whatever your path is. And then at some point, all these things like align and you're in this moment in time where like you are sharp and then you know what you're doing and then the market wants it. But it took all of this to get to this point.
Yep.
And, going for me, like this irrationality, you have to have a little bit of irrationality to like be able to build the business, or else you wouldn't do it. And I think it's like Walmart, like I talk about Walmart, they were like kind of the underdog and like the loser of this group of all these different companies that were like building these types of businesses. Like the founders of Walmart or not, like the guy was kind of insane, bought a plane.
Yep.
And he would fly around the country looking for locations to put buildings. And then he would imagine that building there. Like, what? Like, and then he would go into his stores and like, he would look at like optimizing things. And, a lot of founders wouldn't do that. A lot of like corporations just didn't care enough. And he just willed that company into its position. Whether they're doing a good job today or not, it was a lot of like, the team there and the dynamics of that company like executed to create these massive stores that people could go to. And he just saw something that like didn't exist before.
And why do you think so many founders, even top tier ones getting into YC, have all the best education, whatever it is, don't get there? Is it just, once again, some people are just more willing to push through for that period of time, like Dylan Field at Figma or Sam Walton or you guys for 3 years? Like what sets some people apart to make it to like the next level versus everyone else who's just sort of playing games as being an entrepreneur? And then of course the rest of the world that doesn't even try. But what sets people apart?
I do think schooling is important. I think it proves to the like, so you kind of brought up school. School is one thing for me. It tells me you can stay someplace for 4 years and complete something.
True, but that could be a negative signal, right? It may be like you're really good in some system where everything's set up for you and you just play that game. Doesn't mean you're an original thinker. In fact, you're doing kind of the basic standard.
I mean, for me, like school for me tells me like the person can like commit to something, but that's important. Being able to commit to something. Like some people can't get through school and they don't want to commit to anything and they want to travel, and that's okay. That's who they want to be. But for me, school, like when I see somebody with like a whatever they have, I came from Stony Brook University. I'm like, they persisted, they went through all the classes, they did the whole curriculum, they focused, they got their degree. When you're going into YC, there is this perception that it's going to be easy. People glorify entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And, for me, it was my path, not by choice. And I think a lot of people go into it because they see a lot of really cool press around this startup and this 22-year-old, and they got, $200 million and they're crushing it and they want to be like them. And that is awesome. But behind the scenes, whatever they did to get to that point is not what's presented in public.
It's not a good conversation. It's not the sexy part of the conversation. You want to hear about all the successes, and no one really wants to hear about Elon, chewing glass and sleeping in the factory floor to get the Model 3 out.
Right. And I'll give you like a true example of like what I've seen. Like, and this is an example where I feel like you should power through. So like in YC, there's a lot of companies that go in and they're ready to do it and they're like excited. And then co-founders have a dispute and they fight and it's over something silly. And they have a chance to build something enduring and they have a good idea and it all falls apart within like months. Other times founders just get like demotivated immediately because they don't have product market fit within like a month or 2 months.
And you're like, dude, it took 3 years or 5 years.
It takes time. Whatever anyone says, you can get a lot of revenue quick. Is that revenue sticky? I don't know. Every company is different. Revenue is really important. Users are really important, but it's sad to see some of these founders just give up because they didn't think they thought it was going to be easy. And I'm like, you are in YC or you have an investor or whatever. You live in Silicon Valley. You only live once. This is your chance. And I would tell people this. I'm like, you're giving up on your chance in life to create something impactful. And you don't get these opportunities all of the time.
No. What do they say to that?
And I don't think they even process it, and they don't care to hear what I'm saying because they're going to give up regardless because they're just like, whatever. Because when you're having a hard day, Adam, like to recreate the business you have now would be enormously hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like it took a lot of your life and your like blood, sweat, and tears to get to this point. Imagine just giving up. And this is in the head of some people. It's like, it's too hard. It's hard to scale this. I can't get more customers. That's every business.
Correct.
Like you think, going back to like, Jeff Bezos and Amazon, he was building a bookstore online. Like he didn't just instantly realize like, I'm going to sell everything all over the place at once and buy planes and fly them. Like it came piece by piece by piece over years. And whatever anyone says, it was him learning very quickly. He was a very adaptive learning machine. He realized I can do more than just books.
Yeah.
Then he would jump around and do more. And it was really hard.
Yeah.
Whatever publicly people think it's a piece of cake. Imagine trying to build a logistics company to ship everything across the world.
And get it delivered in 2 days. I mean, like it's kind of insane. Like it becomes the norm, but it's pretty insane. Like it's a miracle. I try to remind, I know a lot of people who are having kids and stuff like that. And I remind them like, you will be fine as parents because you have Google and now AI. You have like basically an instant thing for every bit of knowledge you ever could need. Amazon will deliver same day to you, anything you might need. Like, yeah, you're going to be fine as a parent. Like these miracles did not exist. And yet we are here today when our parents somehow managed to raise us. And it's sort of like just remembering how these miracles exist and how very hard it is. And then they become just the norm for life. So what do you think, what advice do you give people for finding a good co-founder, making that fit really work? Because I've seen so many companies fail because of co-founder splits and co-founder issues. It might be the number one reason companies fail. And I'm not sure this full stats, but it's certainly up there. What advice there? And then how did you choose good co-founders for Dr. Chrono and for Just Paid?
For me, I think it's seeing abnormal ability out of people and like realizing that person is abnormal in some way, but I mean it in a good way. Abnormally good at something. Like when I started Dr. Chrono with my co-founder, his name's Michael. He was abnormally good at technology at that time. And what I mean by that is he could code like he coded so fast, like at the speed of 10 developers.
So he was one of those 10xers.
He was a 10x. And like, I just remember being in school. So I met him in school. We would do school projects together. They gave us like a month or 2 months to finish a project. We'd get it done in a day as a team, a day. And I remember just walking out of those, like, we'd get together and I'd be like, no one else got anything done today.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, we just finished the whole project. What just happened? And then that stuck in my brain with him. And you meet people like that along the journey. And it's like, you kind of have to remember who they are.
Yeah.
And then if you ever truly want to start a business, ask them, like, would you be open to something like that? And a lot of people aren't. Like, they are not, their headspace isn't there and they may not be ready to do something. But you'll have a set of these types of people in your life. And in this company, in Just Paid, Vinay, my co-founder, who's an engineer, I knew him from my days at Dr. Chrono, and everybody would say Vinay is such a good engineer, such a smart engineer. Stuck in my brain. And then one day I saw on LinkedIn, he wasn't working for Dr. Chrono anymore. I saw a post by him and it said like, looking for my next job. And I'm like, this is my chance. I'm going to go talk to Vinay and see if he's open to like doing something with me. And we sat down at Panera Bread and I could just tell he's like a humble person. He's a really nice guy, but also like his work ethic is off the charts.
Yep.
So like, I mean, that's just two instances for me where like you can kind of see like you're looking for like abnormal, amazing execution, but also like I would say don't just get your friends because they're your friends. And it's easy to just say, oh, me and my best friend are going to do this. Maybe you should. That's not totally true. Like YC looks for friendship. But you don't want your friends who are just your friends and they're not good at like doing anything. Like some of your friends are great to go to like hang out at a bar with or like just go to the movies with, like, and you just live life with friends. But there are other friends that are abnormal at something and you know who they are. Those are the ones you should have conversations with and be like, would you ever start something?
Yeah.
And if they say yes, I was thinking about it for like 5 years. And if they say no, I would never do that, I'm too scared, then like you kind of have to like
don't even try to convince them if they're like if they're not really thinking about it, hadn't given it a thought. They don't really know what it's about, even if you were dreaming about it a ton.
Right. And when I met my first co-founder, Michael, he was all about it. He was like, let's do this. I'm all in. Let's go 100% in. He was in like 100%. Mm-hmm. And when I met Vinay, he was like, how do we do this? I just need to figure out how I could like make a living because I live in Silicon Valley, but I'm all in. Like he was trying to work it in his brain immediately. Other people, like you don't want to push somebody in a direction they don't want to go because then you're just going to be doing that the whole time. So some people immediately you can see their brain like figuring out how to build a life like that. And others just like, it could be something because they have like, whatever, they just had a kid. You can't change their mind. Like they just had a kid and they want to have that safe job or like, whatever that is. Or maybe they're committed to another startup and they're just like in it. You're not going to force them into something and you can't because the early stages of any startup, that first like 5 years it's brittle. It's like a brittle state. So you want founders who are going to be like just dialed in, and maybe someone has a chip on their shoulder. Like there's so many reasons to start a company, right? Like maybe someone was fired from a company and was like, I'm going to do this myself. Or maybe somebody like wants to prove it to their dad, like I'm going to do this because I can show him. Or maybe it's someone just wants to become rich and they have that determined mindset and they want to do it. Others, it might be spiritual. It's like crazy. They may have like something about them where they want to like prove to the world that this is good and I want to do something good in the world.
What do you think it was that you mentioned kind of you had to do Dr. Chrono? Like what forced you to get in it? So you're this great student, Stony Brook, everything else. What forced you to go in the direction of being a founder in the first place? Like why did you even take that jump?
So I graduated college and I went and I interviewed probably 20, 30 places. And, a lot of people don't realize this, but when you're interviewing, it is a full-time job. Like actually they do realize this. It just literally becomes your job. I need to find a job. Anyway, I interviewed at 20, 30 places, realized how freaking hard it was. Got all no's right out of school. And I was like, all right, this is a waste of my time, like just interviewing. Anyway, fortunately, I find like this one guy at this one place who's like, I like you. I think you're good at what you do. And it was a startup. Went into the startup, learned so much from this guy. And he just was like a coder and I was a developer there and we were doing software development. But the company goes bankrupt. They raise like 12 million and the company goes bankrupt.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm like, damn. And I have a friend and, I go work at his startup, the next startup I go to, and they raised $24 million. And I'm in New York City, and like I didn't know what a startup was. These are people that just would hire me.
Right? You're like, okay, we know Daniel's good at his job. We want him to come work here. And you're like, cool, job, let's go. So it wasn't really thought out. You're just like, I need another job, and I need to pay for my expensive New York apartment.
When you graduate from college, you're almost like in panic mode. Mm-hmm. You're not so strategic. You're like, I need to get an income because I just graduated college and that's what everybody does. So I wasn't quite thinking. I just was like, let me find a job, get the second job. They raised $24 million and they go bankrupt. So I'm still jobless. I went to 2 places, I have this master's degree in computer science and I'm jobless.
It's crazy.
And I'm like, fortunately, I was able to save $50,000 from those 2 startups. I was very frugal and like, I was very frugal. I was like, after school, because I didn't know that I felt like they weren't going to last, these two companies. So
You can kind of tell when you're already there. You're like, all right, well, maybe they don't quite.
yeah, I was like, I better save my money because God knows when I'm not going to like have a position again. So there was this unsettling feeling like wherever I go, there will be instability. This is all I felt out of school. It's instability. I never worked at like a safe company.
Did that come by the way? Did you have that in your childhood in any way? Like, was your childhood unstable in any way, or?
I would say no. My dad he was an elevator mechanic.
Wow.
So it was a very weird job he had, which was what I learned is like when you have a weird skill set, there tends to be work for you if you can like find a good position. So he worked for New York City, the city, and he'd run around fixing all of the elevators. So I actually had a pretty stable childhood in that way where my dad always had work because oddly, New York City has more elevators than probably anywhere in the world.
I'm not shocked by that. It's okay. Yeah. Like, yes, it makes total sense.
But I mean, from him, like I felt a stable childhood just because of what he did. But he didn't want to do that. That was forced on him. So like this is another thing, like he wanted to be an airplane pilot, but society and what was demanded out there, like, he was an elevator mechanic because New York City needed elevator mechanics. So like he was always a little bit like I didn't take the path of like what I really
he had kids and he was like, all right, I got to provide for them, and so that's now his life path.
Exactly. So like his dad told him like be an elevator mechanic. It's a safe job. You'll always have like work. Don't even think about being a pilot because it's an unstable life.
Which is, on one hand, your grandfather was accurate, but on the other hand, what did that deny your dad in his life? And you only have one life to live, right?
Right. And I think that maybe he was instilling that into me subconsciously, like do what you want. In some ways, like I could have went and worked at another startup, or I could have went and like tried to find another job. But after that second startup, like I felt like I learned enough from a few companies that you are always in like you may not be safe when you're not trying to control some part of your destiny.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
By the way, I think this is a lesson that everyone should learn. You talk to people all the time like, oh, startups are so dangerous and everything else, and go, they're dangerous to work for. And like, that's the case for every company. Have you seen all the layoffs that these big, well-known companies do? They will lay you off tomorrow. If things aren't going right. I mean, they don't care. They're going to do a reorg in 6 months, no matter what. So that's just reality for maybe the world we live in general today. But you do need to control your own destiny and always be saving up, always be preparing.
Right. I totally agree with that. And you ever hear the word mana? It's like energy.
Yeah, of course. It's like from magic, maybe, right?
Yeah, like mana or like energy or lifeblood or like whatever. It sounds so silly, but like you only are given so much in life. And I'm like, do I want to give more of my mana or like lifeblood to something that I'm not passionate about? And I may just be like wasting my life, like doing something that like I don't feel that passion for. And I just remember thinking like, I have $50,000. I can live on it for 2 years and I can build my life the way I want. Or I could buy an apartment in New York City, or I could buy some Apple stock. I mean, this is literally like I was going through this like scenarios in my head, right? Like
pretty good. You bought Apple stock back then, and
I would have made a lot of money. Yeah, I would have made a lot of money because I had an iPod. I'm like, this device. I'm like, this iPod thing. I kind of like this company, but and it was so irrational. Like buying stock cost money, and there was no Robinhood back. It's like you have to call somebody and they at Fidelity, and then they charge you God knows how much money to like buy the Apple stock. And I was like, or I could like build and invest in myself just like school, except now I'm using not tuition money on professors, but on me. And if I take that $50,000 and do that and I lose all of it, I still wouldn't regret it.
Yeah.
That was my thinking. And I'm like, I'm going to do that. And what made it even more crazy was like my friend from college calls me up and he's like, I can't work for a large company anymore. I need out. I'm going to like, he just wasn't happy. His happiness level was like a 2 out of 10. He was making money. He was safe. This is the flip side. He was making money. He was safe. He was, a 30-year-old completely unhappy in his life, and he just was not okay mentally. Calls me up, and he's like, I need to make a change in my life. And this is the guy that's a 10x engineer. And I'm looking at my 50 grand, and I'm already thinking about my plan. And then this 10x engineer calls me and says, like, I'm done. Like, I can't work for anyone else right now. He was losing it. And I'm like, we could come together and meet and see if we could do something together.
Yeah.
And my mindset was already in startups because I worked for two, right? Like, the good thing about working for startups is, like, you're always scrambling and you're always in panic mode, and there's nothing there. So there's no infrastructure. So you're doing it all yourself. So, like, I already felt that same stress. So now I just have a partner that can meet me, and, like, we could work on that together. But instantaneously, we both wanted to work in healthcare. Why? Because I felt like it was an industry that I could do something in for a long time.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Before we get too deep on healthcare, because I want to talk about that too, like why you guys didn't have experience per se in that. So why then? Why that beyond what you just said? But before we even get there, like, what do you think it was the mentality kind of for him a little bit to say, like, hey, I want to get out of this big company job? Because so many people stay in these jobs for forever. Like, that is their life. That is their career, and respect them, I guess, to some extent. But like, this is about entrepreneurs. And so on the other hand, I'm like, gosh, like, what are they missing out on in life by just staying in that safe job? Like, why do you think he and you both said, I'm going to go invest in myself and take this quote unquote risk, which I don't think is actually that much of a risk, but this risk, whereas other people won't do that?
So we started the company in 2008, and they were letting people go because of the housing crisis and, like, mortgage defaults, and the world honestly was falling apart. According to, like, a lot of finance people, the world was, his mindset was, we aligned in some ways, but he had his own psyche, and his dad was an entrepreneur. His psyche was different than mine. His dad was an entrepreneur, and he's not. Like, and he's like, the safety of the big company is not worth what I need to do, like my dad.
Yeah.
Like, he had a very different mindset than me. Mine was, the world is an unstable place. There's a lot of people running businesses that they don't quite know what they're doing, and the businesses might not survive.
100%.
I need to take some ownership of what I'm doing and thought, and be strategic about what I'm going to do in my life.
Yep.
His was a very different psyche, and he could always come on the podcast and talk to you about it. But we aligned in that we both wanted to build a business, and we weren't going to give up easy. That was where, like, we both really
you weren't going to give up easy. That was kind of your alignment.
We came together in that mindset. Yeah, exactly. And that really created a really good dynamic, which you could build anything into existence if you work on something long enough, like, with that mindset.
Yeah, no, it's such a good point. And it's so true. Just having that mindset and, like, we're not gonna give up. I total off topic for a second, just going back to your point about investing in Apple stock. I don't know if you've ever done it, but I almost want to do this after our call. But, like, how much money would you have made if you said you're going to take 20% of all your savings every year, and your salary would have gone up if you stayed at some big company or something, and just reinvested that in Apple stock over 13 years instead of Dr. Crono? I mean, I'm sure you made more with Dr. Crono, but, like, you might have done pretty damn well if you just said, I'm going to take this easy path, just make good money, not work crazy hard, and take 20% every year and just reinvest it in Apple.
I'm sure it would have been a lot of money. If I even took the 50 grand.
Yeah. Just
if you put,
I mean,
if you put 50K
in Apple at 2008, and then reinvest every year, your income goes up. You start at a 80K income, and your income goes up 10% every year for 13 years. And you take 10% of your new income every year and reinvest it in Apple each year from 2008 to what would that be? 2020 or something. What's the outcome?
It would have been $4.6 million.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Easier life, but you would never have learned and had all the experiences that you would have had. So
exactly. Would I have even kept that money in the stock market? Would I have pulled it out? Like, I would have used it. Like, there was so many different, factors. But, if you're a good investor and you pick the right company, it's like, I know a few of my friends who made a lot of money on, like, they'd pick one stock and they go all in. and they become millionaires like just from that. So that is a strategy. Actually, one of my friends did do that. Like he worked for several companies and he put it all in one company that like 1,000x on the public stock market. He was a high risk. Like most people don't do that. He just went all in. And I'm like, you're crazy. And he's a millionaire now because he did that. And I was like,
it's not generally, the data all shows it's certainly not from an investment standpoint. Actually, was reading something last night about this.
right.
You definitely want to, at least financially, you want to diversify. Now, I would say from an entrepreneur perspective, you don't want to do that. You want to go all in on your company, right? And be super focused on that. So, okay, so starting Dr. Chrono, just you two, you go raise money. Why did you do healthcare? Like, that's not the experience it sounds like either of you had. Okay.
Oh, we didn't raise money. We didn't raise money for the first, like 2008, 2009, 2010, we had no money.
So it's just you living off of somehow that 50K. Were you living at home? Like, how do you, 50K doesn't go far.
You live with roommates and then you basically don't eat out. You
like full on ramen diet, basically.
Yeah, you can do it. It is very doable. Like if you'd be surprised, like as a person, anyone can live on 50 grand for 3 years. If you really are strategic. Like I was not doing anything crazy. I was being very, very, very careful. Like even I remember driving my car and being thoughtful. Like, okay, I'm going to this meeting because it's a business meeting. I'd turn my engine on, I'd drive to the meeting, drive my car back, and that was it. Like it was very, very like frugal.
Wow.
Lifestyle. And I would use my bike to work. So I lived in Astoria, Queens, get on my bike an hour into New York City. It was awesome. I don't know why I loved it, but it was super dangerous because there were like 16 wheelers next to me. But I was doing this back and forth like for years. And, we did rent 2 desks. That was our biggest burn rate, was we rented 2 desks for like $500 or $600. We found some really unique places to work where I felt more motivated. Like there was back in 2008, 2009, there were like little startup hubs of like, I don't know, 10 people. We went in this one office and there were 10 desks and there was just us and then one other guy. And then I remember on the second floor above us, there was another company. And I remember thinking they were the hottest thing. It was a company called Comixology. And this is like life-changing for me, this moment. And they had like 10 people in their company. And this was like a moment for me. I was like, they're building comic books on mobile devices. So they influenced me.
That's crazy.
And I was like, comic books on mobile devices. I was like, that's insane. And my mind started to think, because we were in healthcare. So like there was this really unique time. It was kind of fun, but it was 3 companies in like a building. And they shut this whole office down because it was crazy. They had like a whole floor in New York City and it was us and one other guy.
So they weren't covering their rent.
Oddly, that other guy would show up every day. And so the persistence thing, one, Comixology got sold to Amazon and became their comic book Kindle app. 2, the guy who came every day became a Shark. He was Shark Tank Colombia, the guy who is on the show. Yeah, so like everyone else gave up on their companies in this building. And you can just see the persistence and like the success from those.
The people who stuck around and kept going.
Yeah, and they both became successful. It was crazy.
And so 3 years in, then iPad launches, you guys take off. What does the takeoff look like? Like how much does the team grow? How much does revenue grow? When did things start? They probably don't start getting easier, but they certainly start changing.
I mean, for the first few years, it was, I would say rapid iteration and refinement from the existing users. We were building a web-based product, cloud-based, web-based. Oddly, in the medical community before then, you'd get a DVD or a CD because it was like just the way they did it. And then they would just like load it into like a machine in their local office. Kind of like they used to run mail servers in your local office. You used to run your like medical records you'd either have paper everywhere or you'd have a CD. And we're like, let's first make it all in the cloud.
Yeah.
So you have to log into a web browser. So like, again, you get to this point, like it took us 2-3 years to get cloud-based infrastructure, building product, iterating. Then I hear out of nowhere that this like iPad thing is coming out from Steve Jobs. He announces it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we could build APIs, which nobody did,
Crazy,
to talk to an iPad. So we were thinking like there was Pandora, there was Netflix, there was Dr. Chrono, and there was about 100 other apps on the iPad the day it launched. And we had what Netflix had, APIs. Like we just all were in the right place at the right time. Netflix wouldn't be as big as they are without mobile.
Yeah.
Today, they wouldn't be who they are without like the iPhone and the iPad.
What do you think? I mean, Netflix is a good example, just like you guys are. But I mean, like you're talking a lot about, hey, right time, right place to be able to take advantage of these things in persistence. Why do you think you were in the right place? Like said differently, what do you have to do to set yourself up for that level of success? Right? You kind of have to be in the game, obviously. What qualities did you have a team that set you up to be there, to be able to take advantage of the iPad launching and realize that was an opportunity? Because lots of companies who are just like you guys didn't take on that opportunity.
I didn't even know if it was a good idea. I just wanted to do it because it sounded cool. Like it was not rational. It was, we're going to work on this idea because it's cool.
Yeah.
And my co-founder was like 100% on board. And I'm like, we may not make any money, but it's cool. Like it'll be cool to have a mobile medical record because it's awesome. It was not like we're going to make money. It was, this looks cool. It feels cool. I would use it if I was a doctor and I just want to build it. And he was like, well, what, he's like, how? And I'd give designs to my co-founder. I'd be like, it's going to look like this. And he would, again, 10x engineer, his mind immediately was like flying and my mind was flying. And I'm like, there was no secret strategy. It was my brain wanted to build it just because it looked amazing. It's like, I don't know if you ever see a nice car and you just want it.
Yep.
It's like, I look at a Rivian and I'm like, oh, I don't own a Rivian. I'm like, it's just art to me.
Why haven't you bought a Rivian for yourself?
It's expensive. And I'm like, what I buy, I don't know. There's other reasons. I'm like, not ready to just go all in on like, it's a bigger car and all.
I hear you.
A lot of factors.
Totally hear you.
But for me, it's like that car, just like, it's a beautiful machine. And I'm like, I just saw the iPad and I'm like, we could do something with this.
Yep.
And we didn't even own the physical devices.
Right. You're building off of like a spec that they announced basically.
Yep. And then Apple did something really cool and unique, which they never, again, Apple does launch like prototype stuff. Like they launched a software development kit. They call it an SDK for all developers for this piece of hardware that wasn't released, which was really cool. And then we downloaded it and we had it on our Macs. And this is what's even more crazy is we bought Macs to build on the iPad.
You were Windows before that, you mean?
Yeah, I was using a Windows machine. So like we were kind of like just going all in on like this device. And I'm like,
that's a big expense for a company that's not making a lot of money to say we're going to buy these brand new computers. And
I felt horrible. That was the one thing. It's like you feel horrible when you make when you buy large expensive things. And I'm like, this could be the dumbest thing ever to buy these like Macs. And we bought the Macs and
How do you think about resource allocation as a founder, right? Like there's always, at any of the companies, there are always those questions of where do I spend my money? Is this a good, essentially, investment? I mean, this is a pet peeve of mine, like just to tender for 2 seconds, like pet peeve of mine, we talk to people all the time about chore and what we do, of course. And they're like, yeah, I get it, but like it sort of has a cost to it. I'm like, yes, but your time has all this other value. Like where are you going to reinvest your time? You need to decide where you want to invest. You want to invest a little bit of money here to get you, in our case, all this extra time to focus on what you actually care about. But same thing, you decide like, hey, we're going to spend all this money on these expensive new Macs to build on this platform that no one's going to be a success. And it might not have been actually, sorry, to one other thing. I think a lot about people who, I know some companies that have did the same thing, but they did it for the Vision Pro, the Apple Vision Pro. And guess what? That platform did not take off.
Yeah.
And those companies are not doing well.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I always think about like a revolver, like an old revolver from like the West. And it's like, again, mana, you only have so much. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, when you have a revolver, you have 6 bullets or 7 bullets. God, I don't own a revolver, but it's like, you only have so much like you can do before you're out of ammo. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with like mana. It's like, you can only do so much. Like, if something felt really off, I wouldn't do it, right? If it felt like it was completely going to waste money. But you do have to take bets. It's like it's a bit of startups are a bit of a gamble. Like the investors who go in, it's higher risk. The founders, they have to make very strategic decisions. Like, I guess because the iPhone was so beautiful and I loved it and I saw its potential, I wanted the iPad to work.
Yeah.
And I felt like it had all of the qualities of cool that I wanted in a device if I was a doctor.
Yep.
And I was like, the risk is worth it for this one thing. Now, a lot of things didn't work out. Like, we did a lot of things like that didn't work out for us. That one was one where we had abnormal returns, like of upside, without me realizing it.
But
I didn't.
You made a bet. You made the bet and we're willing to run with it and see where it took you and do it well as well. Not just like make the bet, but actually go deep with it.
Well, honestly, we called like iPad. So Saturdays were iPad day. So it was one day out of 7.
It's not a lot. Not a lot, really.
It's not a lot. It was, so the risk was like low. It wasn't as high as you thought. So like it was iPad day for Saturdays. That was it. And we would work on it and design it and make it and make sure it worked and functioned and made it amazing. And like, it was so exciting to see it working on our laptops. Like, I remember thinking, once this device comes out, if it feels like this on a laptop in your hand, I don't think I want to let it go. And then the iPad comes out, right? This thing is launches and it's like out there. I remember like we ran to the Apple store, we got 2 iPads and we load these things in, we plug it in. And I remember thinking, I'm not going to plug it back in until it dies to see how long the battery life is. Apple, because it's such a large form factor, it took a month. I don't know why, like that particular, the first iPad, they did such a good job on the battery life.
Yeah.
It took a month for the battery to die. And I remember thinking like, this thing is insane. Like, you can use it forever, but in a medical setting and not have to worry.
Even then, right? I mean, it launches, it doesn't have that big of an install base. So like you still have to keep doing something to keep making money as that install base grows. Like, how did Dr. Kronos scale? Like, what did that look like then for you guys 3-4 years in? You start hitting scaling, but you get another 9 to 10 years to go before you exit. What happened then? Right? Okay, you're starting to make money. You maybe raise the money. You're slightly out of ramen noodle phase. And then what?
I mean, well, so we launched on the iPad, and I think we went from like, a normal struggling startup to the coolest thing out there in the medical community.
Like, everyone just started talking about it. You're getting pulled in conversation.
If you wanted the cool products, instantaneously, Dr. Chrono was like the cool product because we were on the iPad. Like, instantaneously, we went from like, whatever, who cares about the cloud? Like, it sounds so silly. Like, we don't use the cloud here. To I have an iPhone. I want an iPad.
Yep.
You get an iPad, and immediately you're like, I can use this in my medical practice, and then my kids, my kids could use them for video games, and I can use them for medical practice. And then what's on there? So there was a force of nature in mobile that happened in 2008 to like 2000. I don't know. It's still there, but it's not as much. But it's like, Uber would not have existed without the iPhone. It was just like force pulling us, all of us. Like there was a certain cohort of founders that like were thrust into like immediate like relevance because of the mobile revolution. And a lot of companies, the larger companies, just didn't understand it. Like they just, like Blockbuster Video.
Yeah, they didn't get it.
They were so like, they had a brick and mortar store and you buy your DVD and you go to the store and, you have late payment if you don't bring it in. Like, their mind was just not there and everybody's mind wasn't there. So you get these younger entrepreneurs like Travis from Uber. He just like, he made the connection and he was part of the cohort. And I saw it was like Plan Grid, they built blueprints on the iPad, and there was Travis who did Uber, and then there was us who did medical, and then there was Pandora who had music, and then there was Netflix. Like I saw the group and it was just like everybody was like getting like all these users because everybody was like, I need a phone.
Yes.
And then they'd go to the store and then they'd be like, do I buy a Nokia or do I want a web browser?
Right. That iPhone's way better.
It wasn't even, it was like, I want a web browser because I could look at stuff on the web browser. Like it was so like, it was a simple thing. And then they would like go, oh, there's an app store.
Right.
Let me download this silly app to crush bugs on a video game. And then they'd crush bugs and then they'd go, oh, it has email. And suddenly you're.
So that puts you forward. And then what happens with the business? Like, how does that start growing? Like, what does scaling look like?
I mean, it was, when you have product market fit, you're not fighting for users.
Right.
They're fighting to use you.
Which is probably an amazing feeling to have.
There's a flip and you go, oh, this is relevant.
Yep.
We are relevant. This is innovative. We are innovative, like, because people are coming to us. And it's like something flipped in Figma. I don't know. I don't even know when it was, but then suddenly like everybody immediately went from Photoshop to Figma.
I think it was all the ability to work collaboratively in a browser. In Photoshop didn't really allow that. I don't know what changed on the web that made that a real possibility for people, but it became like, oh, obviously you're going to work this way, which is, in retrospect, think back, Google Docs did that a long time ago. And so it was sort of this obvious thing, but Google Docs didn't quite take off the same way Figma did.
There's this like moment in companies and it's not a magic bullet. Figma had to execute all around it. So like you are running the business like full time, right? Like you don't just check out.
So what was for you guys, like, what was that? What were all the things around it? So you have PMF. What are all the things around it that you had to do as CEO to go? I mean, it's a big change. And a lot of people say CEOs, a lot of founders don't do that, can't make this change to go from being super scrappy startup founder to now being we have PMF and we need to run as fast as we can. Like that's a big switch in your mind. Like what did you do there to mentally change where you were focused in building?
I mean, one was, well, first of all, we had no investors. Did you take,
so at that point, people must have been clamoring to invest, however.
I remember, we were talking to a few investors and they were.
Had you even gone through YC at that point or no?
No.
Wow.
So all this without YC. Yeah. I mean, again, I had $50,000. Like I could live another year. That's what I was thinking. I could live another, maybe, I could live a little longer on this 50 grand. It wasn't 50 grand at that point. I remember like when the iPad came out, I probably had like 15 grand left. Yeah. And, I think my co-founder was he loved reading Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator's articles. He just liked,
by the way, are fascinating, but they're also great marketing for YC.
Yeah. There were these like articles that he would put out and, back then there was no YouTube, like people just didn't really use YouTube as much. And Paul Graham would put these like essays. He called them essays. He put an essay out and my co-founder would read the essays. And I remember my co-founder being like, man, I would love to do YC. And I'm like, all right, he wants to do YC. Me being like a tenacious founder, I'm like, let me email the founder of YC. So I email Paul Graham and he responds. He's like, because they weren't big back then. This is 2010. They were only giving small checks. They weren't like, they were not big like they are today. It's not like anyway, I email him and he responds and he's like, I won't be coming to New York City because you're in New York. So sorry, not going to happen. And that was the email. It was nice. It was polite. And I'm like, let me email him again. And I email him again. I'm like, is there anyone at any time who will be in New York City that I can talk to from YC?
And why didn't you just say, I'm just going to get on a plane and come to SF? I mean, I know you didn't have a lot of money.
He didn't even respond with that. It was just, we're in California. We don't come to New York City. Sorry, best of luck to you. That was the email I got.
And then what did you say? You wrote back.
Why would I get on a plane to go to California if I only have 15 grand in my bank account?
You do what you got to do, I guess,
But he wasn't a user or a customer. So my mindset was like, I wasn't going to generate revenue. So like my mindset was different. It was like, how do I save costs so I can live a little longer and then get more users?
Yep.
And he wasn't a user. So it was a weird mindset. So like, but I email him again and I'm like, is there anyone that will be in New York City at any time in like the next few months? And he emails me and he says, yes, Alexis Ohamian, the founder of Reddit, he lives in New York. And I'm like, And I start looking up like, okay, this guy's a YC partner. So I email Alexis And he's like, he says, he's busy. But I this is what got him. I said, we work out of an accelerator. Again, there's only three companies.
Creator, so it's okay.
It was a massive floor, and they were trying to make it like, it was insane. They had like 40 desks. It was really beautiful. It was really nice. They just couldn't get people into the building. Anyway, I'm like, we work out of an accelerator, and we'd love to hear you talk. Next email back to me was, okay, this is the date I could come. Does this work for you? And I'm like, perfect. And I tell my co-founder, I'm like, we got Alexis Ohamian to come here, one of the YC partners. It's not Paul Graham, but he'll do. Right? Like, and my co-founder was like, okay, awesome. And Alexis comes, to our office, and there's we got
three people who are there.
The three founders are there, and then the owner comes, and we bring in. He buys a free lunch. The owner of the building, who is really nice, of the like facility, and then like a few other founders come in for the talk, because I told everyone like that did red desks there, like, and we had about like, I'd say like 7 people, right? 7 people came.
Yeah,
it was small. 7 people, and then Alexis comes in, and then he gives a talk, and it was awesome. He gave a really, really awesome talk about just startups in general, and like what it is to do a startup. And I remember afterwards, I'm like, could we talk to you about like what we're working on, and just show you the business, and maybe there's some interest from you and the Y Combinator partners. And then he comes over to our desks, and he's just, I'll never forget his eyes just like glazing as he sees like a real product, real users, revenue.
Yeah.
And he's just quiet. And he's like, all right, I'm going to tell Paul Graham, and we'll have you fly out. And we're going to just, he saw what was happening, like the energy and the magic.
Yeah.
And he's like, it was like Uber. It's like the moment you use an Uber, it's like, what? Like the moment you use a medical, like a mobile device with medical, it's like, it's so magic. Cool.
Yeah.
It's like so amazing. And it's just like, it's like,
it's okay. So he's
like using ChatGPT the first time. It's like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a weird feeling, and that there's something there. So like he saw it, but he wasn't in the medical community, so he didn't really understand. But now he saw it. Like he's just like, oh, there's this device.
So you get into YC, move out west.
Well, actually, we fly to California, and they were having startup school, so we were able to like go to startup school. And this is where I realized it was different. I realized it was like different than the normal investor. So we fly to California to pitch Y Combinator, but we go to this thing called startup school. And startup school, they basically like somehow the Y Combinator team was able to like get a massive hall at Stanford University. And they had, 10 founders talk. And they had this room full of, it must have been like 1,000 founders.
Oh.
And I just remember looking around being like, there's a lot of people like me.
Yeah.
And they're all here.
And you didn't know,
and I'm like,
feel that in New York.
Not like that. Not like the energy of the room. And they're all in this room trying to build stuff. And it just felt like electric.
Do you advise people to like come to Bay Area still today if they're in New York or other locations?
I mean, I live here. I do think it's where the athletes go. You can build a company anywhere in the world, but when you're around athletes, they lift you up.
Yep.
And it's like, if you're forced to go to the gym every day, you will somehow get slightly more healthy.
No, there's psychological studies that actually show like your friend group implies like what your body type is going to be like, and things like that, because it's sort of just you're around certain people. So it's the same thing with people you work with in that environment that you're in. And I walk around San Francisco, and there's tech people everywhere, which some people really get bothered by because there's not a lot of other conversations. On the other hand, it's like, yeah, everyone's trying to build something amazing and change the world. Pretty cool.
If they can do it, you can do it. A lot of people feel that because they're just all normal people, right? Like,
yeah, we all are.
That's why like you feel like you can build your company, right? Like you're like, if they can do it, I can do it, and I'm going to help support them. And you guys are a support system for startups, but you can do it because they can do it. And it's like this mindset in Silicon Valley that happens a lot. And then the investors happen to be here, so there's a lot of funding that happens. And then there's really smart schools like Stanford and Berkeley. So like suddenly there's this like, and then the government was funding a lot of things in this area. So there's a weird like mixing pot that allows for what's happening here. It's not like you can just recreate it anywhere. People try.
So you get into YC at some point. things are taking off. Like, what does that look like when you're scaling? Like, what is a scale journey? Like, now you've hit PMF, things are moving. What does that actually look like as a company? Like, for you as a leader, as a company, where does that go?
I mean, as a founder, you're either like learning or you're not. And for me, I was always trying to like grow as a person and learn to like scale a company. Leadership is a lot of it is like either in you or you can learn it. Right. So like for me, I would run my company during the day and then at night I would learn. I would figure out like what resource out there can I utilize to learn about being a better leader. So I didn't just sit around. I would literally like study leadership and like,
I mean, you're reading the books about like the great leaders of the past, or
yeah, like books like Good to Great.
yeah, of course.
Stuff, anything I could get my hands on. And back then there was not a lot of good videos like there are today. The world is different. There's so much good content. But back then I would just like read something, listen to a podcast on something, read a book, like whatever could make me a better person to run the company. So I would do that literally like nightly. I would take at least like 30 minutes.
Is that almost how you would set up your day? It's just like, okay, we're going to, like, how did you allocate time during the day and what did you focus on? Like, how do you do this today? When you think through, like, what am I going to focus on? Like, you're running a marathon essentially, right? It can't be a sprint. So how did you set yourself up on a daily basis? And what do you do today to achieve the great outcomes?
I mean, there was, I think I read about this from like a book about Toyota. So there's a really good book about Toyota out there where they talk about Kaizen.
Yeah, great concept.
And, Toyota had this idea that if there was something wrong on the line, they would stop the line, analyze what's wrong, and they'd fix it immediately before they like would continue building all of the cars like one after another. So that Kaizen was like an arduous refinement process.
Yep.
And for me, a mental model that I had kind of put out there was, can I do one thing per day that makes the company better? And I need to work on that. So like that was my form of Kaizen. And then I would have for me, I put a whiteboard up. And this was really cool. So this is, pre-COVID, I would draw. This is something I learned from Steve Jobs, or I don't even remember. I put, I think 40 whiteboards up all around our office. Every room had like at least 3 or 4 whiteboards. So there was this one whiteboard I would just draw people's names and I'd say, what are the 3 things you're going to do this week? And that was my form of Kaizen. So everybody had to write down their 3 things. And then next Monday, I would say, did you do it?
Yeah. How strictly would you enforce that? Would you like let people go if they didn't hit it or if they weren't being ambitious enough? How did you?
Yeah, I was a human. I was a human being. Like if people couldn't hit that goal, I would try to set them up where, they would make it achievable for themselves.
Yeah.
So it was, can this be done in this week? You don't want something that's like you could do something that's not like achievable, but like some people would just say like, call this person.
Yeah. Okay.
That was one of their goals. Call this person. That's it. So they would have like really simple things like call this person, write this email, do this for the product. Like, so they were very achievable. So people generally, I would say like 90%, they could get it done. And then there were weeks where people didn't do it. And I'm like, are you focused on the right thing? And, they would talk through really quick. And I would erase the whiteboard, then reset it. And then it'd be like, all right, let's reset for this week.
And so how did you do it as you guys? I mean, how many people did you at the max? How many people did Dr. Chrono?
Hundreds. So there were a lot of people at the company. So it got really, really big. But I did that at my scale where I could like affect change in the company. So like a lot of the leaders don't realize this, but like over the years, I would still use that same format for the leaders that I'd meet with.
Yeah. So for your direct report, sort of, what do you do even today to like keep yourself? Do you still have the same, like, what can I do to improve one day at a time? Everything like that?
It hasn't changed much. Like we use Linear.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Linear. It's like a tasking tool. The problem with a Linear is it's like, high, medium, or low, meaning like urgency.
Yep.
But it doesn't create Kaizen.
Mm.
which is what this week will impact the company the most.
Yeah.
So like I create a board still for the team where we basically like have to review and just see like what are you hitting this goal or you're not hitting this goal? Like is this are you achieving these three things that you get done? And it's not complex. So the simpler you make this process, like the better it is. I mean, there's also like revenue goals that we want to hit. There's other goals in there, but like all of it has to like funnel towards like that goal, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Um,
Are there any other key hacks that you've learned that you like would recommend anyone try to apply to being a successful entrepreneur, like to either getting to PMF, but then also scaling your company?
I mean, one, this is kind of, you've heard this all before, but build community of like other founders around you that like you can rely on.
Yep.
I think that's so important because when you hit a wall or an issue comes up, and again, you have if you have investors, you can rely on them the same way. But when you have like a good community of founders, you can sometimes just ask them like, I'm going through this issue. I don't know how to fix it. What did you do?
And people don't always want to talk to their investors if they're going through an issue. They don't want to admit that something's wrong.
Right. That's right. So you build a community of founders and you can like really rely on them. And that's one hack. I mean, another hack for me is like I have a walking desk next to me. I have an elliptical right over here, but not everybody can do that. I built my life this way where I'm like, the stress of the startup is so arduous. You need to like get the energy out.
Yeah.
Another hack, go walk.
Yeah.
If you have a Zoom meeting, you can turn your camera off for your mental health and walk and just do a walk outside in the fresh air and the sun, and like instantaneously your brain chemistry changes because like you're walking. When I have like stressful meetings, I'll bring someone on a walk and it's so pleasant. Like things immediately, like people start to communicate better and like you just start to have a better conversation.
And I guess pets make you founders better too, right? I think you've said that somewhere.
I don't know if they make you better. I actually think pets are really, it's tough to start a startup and have pets, but I've had pets the whole time I've had startups. When you're stressed, you can like rely on I have 2 dogs and 3 cats, but like, I remember like there are times when I'm super stressed out and my dog will just instantaneously like pull me out of it and be like, let's go outside. And I have to take them out because they're going to go in the house. So I'm like immediately like, it forces me out of that. There is this like dangerous mindset where you're doing too much work and you're not getting anything done.
Yeah, no, totally. I worry about this plenty. Like, am I being productive and efficient and focused and moving the ball forward?
Yeah. So like, sometimes like when you're not in flow and your pet is around, you have to take care of them. It's like, you think about something else other than the business because it does encompass you a lot.
Kids have the same impact for me. Talking briefly, we'll go over it really quickly, but it's kind of important, especially because you talk a lot about kind of riding that iPad wave. How is AI doing the same thing or not doing the same thing today for obviously for you guys that just paid, but just also just startups and businesses and founders you talk to?
Everybody says it's like biggest thing since electricity. I think it's the biggest thing since mobile. Like, and that's
less big or more big than electricity. I would say electricity is bigger personally, but I don't know.
I think it's like the mobile revolution. It's like so game changing. It's life changing. It's going to make everyone's life better. I do think some jobs are going to change based off of it. It is insurmountably like it's going to change the world in so many ways. And mobile did the same thing. I just think that
it's happening very fast though compared to even mobile, right? Mobile, but AI feels like it's faster.
I feel like maybe it's just perception. I feel like they're very similar. I guess because I was in it for mobile. I was really in it. I was in it while it was happening. So I feel that same like force pulling us all forward where like you're just doing so much more. Like with mobile, I think it was just different. It was like you can tell where you are and not get lost on a map. It was little thing after little thing. With AI, people are just way more aware because it's doing things for them, and you're being way more you're understanding what's happening because some tasks might have taken you a day or a week. you're doing it in seconds now. But with mobile, it was just different. It was like you could find a restaurant quicker.
Yeah, totally.
Because it had a geolocated heat map and you look it up in seconds. So it was just different, same, different in my head. I'm like, it's just, it's going to change the world, but just there's so much more like fear around AI. And I think it's, and excitement also. It's like fear and excitement. Like it's going to take my job, but like mobile was very similar in the way that it like helped everybody. I do think people are going to shift.
Do you have any advice for founders about how to ride that wave properly? Like, how do you ride the AI wave?
Iterate weekly, learn as much AI as possible, look into every tool that's coming out, ask your friends what they're using, utilize all the tools that like others are using. Look at the best people in AI and see what they're saying. If they mention something, look it up. Spend at least 30 minutes a day learning about AI, and you'll be better than most people.
Yeah, no, I agree with that advice. It's hard to do sometimes. I will admit, like I try really hard to do that myself, and it's still difficult to spend time. I try to read a lot about AI and stuff and I need to use it more even. But anyways, so a few other quick questions, sort of wrapping up a bit. What would be your biggest piece of advice for like your younger self? If you could say anything to your younger self, what would you have advised to that version of Daniel?
Take care of your health. Like it's so important and so critical. I do think if you're running a startup, it does take its toll on you, like in terms of health. Like just take care of my health, honestly, because like you have a million problems running a startup until you have one health problem, and then you have one problem.
Right. Then everything else, that's a really good, well said, right? If your health goes bad, the rest doesn't matter at that point. So
right,
it messes it all up. It's great.
And also, I think it's exactly right. So like you have to like really take care of your health. So like in my older age, I've been really very on top of like just taking care of myself because I've had a couple of health issues but some of it was from running a startup. It was just like that arduous stress of like running something so long. It does get, it takes its toll on your physical sometimes.
100%. And what related to that, but different maybe, what advice would you give any entrepreneur today to be excellent? If they wanted to achieve excellence, is there a single piece of advice you would say, do this for your highest likely outcome on excellence?
It is like a long game, and just work on one thing a day that can make an impact on the company. So like maybe it's making a phone call to a friend that you want to recruit. Maybe it's like talking to an investor to learn from. Maybe it's setting up a computer to like make it a little bit quicker. Maybe it's learning a piece of software. Maybe it's setting up your life. Maybe you're like not in a good apartment, like, and you need to be closer to your office. Maybe it's you're not near anybody in tech and you want to be closer, move closer. Maybe it's, there's so many different pieces, but if you work on things daily, that's where you have this like really good insurmountable like force pushing you forward. But it's like, what can I do today to like make things a little bit better for my startup? Even when I'm not working, I'm working, which is bad. Sometimes I'll like optimize my phone, whatever, like what like something in email, and it just like it's here and there and there and there, and then suddenly you've got like thousands of these things compiled, and like you've become a really efficient founder. Like,
yeah, those are the things that add up, and it compounds and builds. Daniel, how can folks find you if they want to get in touch, learn more about you, we didn't really talk about get paid, but like, or just paid, sorry. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, you could email me. You can see my LinkedIn. It's actually on a Just Paid bio. So if you go to justpaid.ai and then go to team, my LinkedIn is there. You could click that and then just message me on LinkedIn. You could also message me on X, Twitter, I'm available there. So just like send me a DM there. So that's two ways.
I'm shocked by how many people don't use DMs in anything else, but no, it's great. I certainly appreciate your time. It's precious. I know you got a startup to run. Get back to it, keep fighting and making it happen and staying super persistent. And I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for being with us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Adam.